So what's going on guys, Kate is here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today I will show you a Tower of Fantasy weapon tier list and you will be able to see which weapons are the best and most overpowered. So this game in general has bunch of fun weapons to play and we have a very unique variety to choose from. But the big question is, which weapons can actually do the highest damage numbers? So I've done a bunch of testing and here's the best tier list that you've been waiting for. So if this sounds interesting to you, then let's get right into it. So then moving over to the first weapon, which is the Scythe of the Crow, and he gets to be placed right in the S tier. So weapons in the S tier are by far the best in the game by looking at the current meta and DPS numbers. So Scythe of the Crow is a very powerful weapon that has amazing offense and defense. You most likely will use this weapon in a melee range, but it can be useful for mid-range engages as well. This is a fire type weapon, so when you fully charge it, you will set the enemy target on fire for 8 seconds, and your next attack will increase your damage by 58%. And then lastly, as you know, each star on your weapon will give you a powerful passive, so in the endgame you will be able to increase your weapon's damage even more. So then moving over to the second weapon, which is the Icewind arrow, and we want to put him right in the S tier. So Icewind arrow is a powerful bow that shoots frost arrows. This is an ice shell weapon, so when it's fully charged, you will freeze the enemy target for 2 seconds, while leaving a frostbite, which is a debuff for the next 6 seconds. If the ice shell gets broken, then you will do plus 150% more damage, while the frostbite will reduce your next weapon's charge by 50%. So no matter which type of 3 weapons you're using, I always recommend to include this bow in every single build. So then moving over to the next weapon, which is the Rosy edge, and we want to put him right in the A tier. So weapons in the A tier are still very remarkable and very good items. So Rosy edge is very good for both PvP and PvE. This weapon is an elegant frost blade that magically in the air will drop white flower images while doing huge amount of damage. This is an ice shell weapon type, so when you fully charge it, you will freeze the enemy target for 2 seconds, while leaving a frostbite, which is a debuff for the next 6 seconds. If the ice shell gets broken, then you will do plus 150% more damage, and of course you will reduce your weapon's charge by 50%. Overall, the Rosy edge is very good for tanks and players that enjoy melee weapons, because the more stars you have on the weapon, the more often you will be able to get a shield, which is a very powerful defensive buff and much more. So then for the fourth weapon, we have the Absolute Zero, and we want to put him right next to the Rosy edge. So Absolute Zero is another ice shell type of weapon that is meant for support players and healers. So all of your normal attacks will do damage from range, but when you use your main skills or discharge, you will be able to remove all negative buffs from you and your teammates. This is by far the best support player weapon that does really good damage, especially if you combine this weapon with other ones that I previously mentioned. So if you're looking for a cool stuff that can heal and do great damage, then this is the one for you. So then for the next weapon, we have the Terminator, and he gets to be placed right in the A tier. So the Terminator, in my opinion, is the best and coolest looking weapon / electric rifle in the game. The Terminator's every attack will increase its damage by 1% for up to 2 seconds, and it can stack up to 15 times, which of course will result in a 50% damage increase just passively when you're farming monsters. This weapon is very big in size, yet very simple, so you will only have one skill per every single attack type. If you have ever played Lost Ark or League of Legends, and you want to be that guy with a massive gun, then this is the weapon for you. So then moving over to the last and final A tier weapon, and it is the Nightingale's feather. So this is another bow that this time is a grievous type of weapon. So when you fully charge it, your weapon will inflict plus 100% damage to the next following attack, and then afterwards you will make the enemy grievous for the next 7 seconds, which will make him take plus 20% extra damage. As any ranged weapon in groups, you can just sit back and relax, and most of your passives from the stars and normal skills will increase your headshot damage, then your crit rate and crit damage, and so much more. So then moving over to the next category, which is the B tier, and the first weapon that gets to be in here is the Chakram of Scythe. So weapons in the B tier are good weapons, which can balance your team in PvP or will be decent for leveling as well. So Chakram of Scythe is a very interesting looking weapon, which has a round shape with sharp edges. This is a grievous type of weapon, so when you fully charge it, your weapon will inflict plus 100% damage the next following attack, and then afterwards you will make the enemy grievous for the next 7 seconds, which will make him take plus 20% more damage. Overall, this is not the strongest weapon, but the most interesting looking one, so if you want to fight with a boomerang shaped circle, then this is the weapon for you. So then moving over to the next weapon, which is the Molten Shield V2, and he gets to be placed right next to the Chakram of Scythe. So this is a shield that belongs to the V2 weapon series, which means that he has a very special passives. So then first of all, this is a fire type weapon, so when you fully charge it, you will set the enemy target on fire for 8 seconds, and your next attack will increase your damage by 58%. Overall, the shield is meant for tanks and players that want to soak up a bunch of damage. Each one of your stars will give you even more shield bonuses and much more. So if you want to be more tanky, then this is the weapon for you. So then for the 9th weapon, we have the Negation Cube, and he gets to be placed right in the B tier. So this is a support weapon that is a jack of all trades, because your normal attacks will do decent damage, but then your skills and passives will either way shield your allies, remove negative buffs and much more. So unlike the previous support weapon that I mentioned in this video, this one has very little healing, but instead of heals, you will be able to place different buffs on your teammates depending on what is the most needed in that situation and much more. So if you don't want to be a healer, but just a support player with good damage and buffs, then this is the weapon for you. So then moving over to the next weapon, which is the Venus, and we want to put him right in the B tier. So Venus is a very cool looking weapon, and it looks like your character is using 2 alien weapons from the future. Besides just the design, this weapon has very good damage, and most importantly, it is a vault type of weapon. So when you fully charge it, the next attack will paralyze the enemy for 1 second, while electrifying him for the next 6 seconds, negating all buffs and dealing plus 144% more damage. And on top of all of this, the enemy won't be able to receive any buffs for the next 6 seconds. So if you're looking for a very powerful PvP weapon that looks cool and will debuff the enemies, then this is the best one for you. So then moving over to the next weapon, which is the Thunderblades, and he gets to be right next to the Venus. So Thunderblades are quiet and small daggers that will give you assassin type of playstyle. I really like any class or weapon that has sneaky playstyle and teleporting, and this assassin type of weapon is exactly what you're looking for. And on top of all of that, these daggers are vault type of weapon, so you will be able to paralyze the enemies for 1 second, while negating all their buffs and increasing your damage at the same time. So what are you waiting for? Check this weapon out and have fun. So then going over to one of the last B tier weapons, and it is the Staff of Scars. So this is a mage type of weapon that is a 50% healing staff and a 50% damage weapon. This is one of the more complicated ones with unique playstyle and a lot of different skills and passives to keep in mind. This is a vault type of weapon, so when you fully charge it, the next attack will paralyze the enemy while electrifying him and negating all buffs and dealing more damage. And on top of all of this, the enemy won't be able to receive any buffs for the next 6 seconds. So if you want to be that healer slash debuff the enemy type of player, then this is the weapon for you. So then moving over to the last and final B tier weapon, and it is the Thunderous halberd. So this weapon is great for burst damage, and its range makes it very useful for close to long range fights. I personally use this one as good leveling weapon and easy to learn and master. Interestingly enough is that this weapon is very combo reliant, so your double stun durations will be increased and you will get more damage the further your skills travel. So for the most damage, always try to start the fight from the range, and that's about it. So then moving over to the next weapon, which is the Pummeler, and we want to put him right in the C tier. So weapons in the C tier are the ones you must avoid using. If you just started playing this game, or if for some reason you only have available these weapons, then use them till you find your loadout. But as soon as you get better weapons, then leave these ones and use the higher items. So Pummeler is an ice shell type of weapon, which means that you will be able to freeze, leave frostbites and reduce your weapon charge by 50%. Overall, this is a simple and good weapon, but like I said, for the best of the best, try first of all the other weapons. So then going over to the next weapon, which is the Combat Blade, and he gets to be placed right in the C tier. So this is a simple weapon that is agile and easy to learn and master. This will be one of the easiest weapons in the game, and most likely you will get it from the first few levels, so try to use it till you find better weapons. This is a grievous type of item, so when you fully charge it, you will inflict 63% more damage while putting the grievous debuff on the enemy, which will give you plus 20% extra damage and much more. So then moving over to the next weapon, which is the Composed Bow, and we want to put him right next to the Combat Blade. So here we have another very easy and common weapon that is used in the early leveling process. This is a flame type of weapon, so you can set the enemies on fire for 8 seconds, while causing ongoing damage for 27%. And then lastly, you can ignite the target as well, which will remove the enemy's healing efficiency for 50%. So if you're looking for a simple and fun leveling weapon, then this is the one for you. So then going over to the next weapon, which is the Frosted Spear, and he gets to be placed right in the C tier. So this is a very simple weapon that is popular because he's very cheap and highly effective in the early game. As the name implies, this is an ice shell type of weapon, so you can freeze, put frostbites and reduce your weapon charge for 50%. This spear will offer you many skills and combos to master. So this is a great starter weapon to try out the unique and fun combat in Tower of Fantasy. And then for the last and final weapon, we have the EM Blade, and we want to put him right next to the Frosted Spear. So this weapon is the first one every single player will get at the start of his journey. I recommend to keep this weapon till you get to level 25 or 30, because at that point, the other better weapon should be quite common to find. Overall, this EM Blade is simple and fun, and it is a wall type of item, so you can paralyze aka stun, debuff and increase your damage, and that's about it. So with that said, I really do appreciate everyone for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback or other good Tower of Fantasy weapons or guides that you would like to see in the next video, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and you won't miss any more amazing content from me. With all this said, you have an amazing day and I will see you in my next video, so take it easy, peace.